What up, my freaks? RuinousInsight here with a few random thoughts on the 3.0 patch that just dropped. Now, a lot of things seem to have changed. One of the main things is there have been a lot of decreases and a little bit of increases in terms of point cost for many of the fleets around the game. This is gonna probably change up the meta a little bit. The Imperial Navy will have probably gotten stronger as a lot of their ships got the cost reduction, but that happened to a bunch of the fleets. It did not happen to the Necrons, whose relatively stayed the same in terms of point cost, but it did happen to Imperial Navy, and weirdly enough, it also happened to the Orcs. Reducing Orc point cost seems like a bizarre move, partly because they're already quite efficient in terms of point cost, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Another thing that happened is the reduction to ramming damage. Now this hits close to home for me because I love to ram even when it's not necessary, and now we'll be doing less damage there, so that's unfortunate. It's not going to stop me from constantly ramming at every feasible opportunity, but it is nonetheless annoying. Now, the biggest change, in my opinion, other than all the new toys that Necrons get, is the change to carriers. Now, carriers operate differently than they used to now, in that when you launch fighters, and granted, fighter spam was overpowered. If anybody watched my carrier spam with the Emperor's Children, it was pretty obvious that if you can't fight off carriers, the fighters will just destroy you. Well, so will the bombers, I suppose. But yeah, so the way they work now is they do not recover their cooldown until the fighters come back, i.e. you send your fighters out there and they have to either return to your ship or die before your carriers are able to actually pop fighters again. That's a big change. It means that you might be able to launch fighters and then not launch them for almost the entire match, depending on how that works out. I don't know if this is going to completely cripple carriers, but it certainly throws a wrench there. Now, the biggest change, other than that, finally, is, as I said, all these new toys that Necrons get. So, let's check out their new ships. Now, the first new ship, I'm on game, stop lagging please. There we go. The first new ship is this Sekhem cruiser. Now, the thing is, the Sekhem only costs 140 points. It's less than a cartouche. And I don't know if this is a bug or not. Maybe this is a bug and they'll patch it, but the Sekhem appears to get a star pulse waves. That is a star pulse wave on a 140 point light cruiser. If this is not a bug, you can bring, what, 8 of these cruisers into a 1v1, all of them having a star pulse wave, all of them having their default transfer doom scythe skill, so that's 1 doom scythe squadron, so that's 8 doom scythes, 8 star pulse waves, teleportation, and running silent on these light cruisers. If you're able to teleport into a mass of enemies, you can just destroy them instantly. Even battleships are going to be taken down, especially with the upgrade that increases the damage of the star pulse wave. It's obnoxious. It is absolutely obnoxious. I don't know if this is gonna get patched out, because the thing is, one of the other ships we got is the Scythe Harrower, which is a cruiser, and it has double the HP of the Sekhem, but it doesn't actually have a star pulse wave. So that's a little bizarre. I'm actually thinking maybe they messed up and gave the star pulse wave to the Sekhem instead of the Harrower. I'm not entirely sure. It's strange. It is quite strange. Now, the Harrower is a full broadside, I believe. 100, yeah, okay, so unlike the Harvester, and despite being almost 50 points cheaper, The Harrower fields only lightning arc battery weapons. So, the Harvester was a partial broadside hitter with its forward-facing and 270-degree front particle whips, whereas the Harrower, in dropping the particle whips and apparently a Star Pulse Wave for now, just has broadsides. Now, a little bit strange for the Necrons to be fully broadsiding, but it is a cheap ship with only 246 cost and a pretty decent amount of hull and stuff. If it had a Star Pulse Wave, it would be really, really disgusting. Let's see, the other new ships is the Scythe Ruiner. It seems pretty comparable to the Scythe Reaper, to be perfectly honest. It has lightning arc battery whips and particle whip turrets. It has more particle whips, basically, and a little bit of broadside firepower, as opposed to the fully 270-degree firepower of the Scythe Reaper. I think they're pretty comparable. If you're spamming particle whips, then Ruiner is the way to go. If you're not, I think Reaper might be the way to go. They both field their Star Pulse Waves, so on and so forth. Yeah, and the fourth new ship is the Grand Cruiser Scourge here. Now, as I've been saying, the Necrons should have a carrier, a dedicated carrier, and that is the Scourge. It has 4 launch bays, however, it can only launch Doom Scythes. It's a little bit weird in that regard, because, as I've been saying, Necrons should still have Night Scythes and Night Shrouds, I believe? The Bomber class and the Transport class. These things exist. It is kind of weird that they do not have them in-game. But, I don't know, whatever. So, the Scourge, other than that, carries some lightning arc battery weapons, so it is also a broadside firing, primarily ship. It also is massively expensive. I mean, it's only a little bit more expensive than, say, a Reaper or a Ruiner, but it has... I mean, it has pretty decent firepower, but for only 100 more you could get a Cairn, which is much more powerful in terms of sheer weight of fire. It's kind of difficult to say. My main problem with the Scourge, I think, is that because of the way the carrier changes happened, it might not be nearly as effective as it could be. Well, with that said, I'm going to launch a skirmish with bringing all 4 of these ships, just for the fun of it. Not going to go 1v1, just going to launch a skirmish against the AI, just to test out these things. So let's go with that. Let's go with Tesseract Crypt, and don't need unstable pull score. Let's go with Shards of Yandrazatha. And yeah, let's do it. Let's fight the Navy, I suppose. It doesn't really matter who. Just doing it for fun. Now, if that Sekhem light cruiser bug is not, in fact, a bug, I fully expect this to be the new meta. You bring 1 ship, maybe a Shroud, or maybe a Sekhem. I don't know. Depends on how you want to go. I think you have enough money to bring 7 Sekhems and 1 Shroud in a 1v1. So you bring a Shroud, you put mass recall on that damn thing, and then you teleport it right into the middle of a huge stack of enemy ships. Then you pop 8 Star Pulse Waves, or 7 Star Pulse Waves, depending, at the same time, and there you go. You just destroyed at least 50% of the enemy fleet in 1 move, and then you got 8 ships to board with, 8 ships to launch Doom Scythes with, and it seems pretty disgusting on paper. Maybe it would be a bad idea against a ramming fleet, like a bunch of clutches, but other than that, it seems like it would be pretty effective. Now, the ships all look the same except for the Scourge, or Scourge, I don't remember how to pronounce that word properly. So yeah, the models of the Ruiner and the Harrower are pretty much the same. I don't know if these little bits were there before, but they might have been. Those are just recycled assets. And speaking of recycled assets, Behold the Frankenship. This is the Scourge. It appears to have a a bit of a cairn welded together with a bit of a scythe class with the shroud or cartouche or whatever, the light cruiser wings welded onto its side. So all the Necron ship's assets have been cannibalized, repurposed into this disgusting monstrosity of a carrier ship. I don't know if this is in reality what it looks like, I don't remember, or whether it but at least it shouldn't have been too hard to make. Maybe this is what it's supposed to look like. I suppose the Necrons do have a certain aesthetic. It just seems a little weird when it's clearly, like, very, very similar. I suppose the wings do look a little bit different here, but unless you consider that these are turned on their sides and then these are, like, double versions of those. Alright. Enough of that. Let's see these things in action. They're launching a ton of fighters, but we can deal, I think. I would assume these guys are going to go towards that field. So let's launch our Doom Scythes on this ship and not be able to use them for a long time. Let's get here. You can run silent, I suppose? No, there's no need. We're staying together. We don't really have enough Star Pulse waves anyway, so let's speed it up just to see these ships in action. It's a little bit weird that all three of our capital ships are broadside firing. I'm not used to that kind of thing with the Crons. Let's start everybody on Dispersion, I think. You guys are fighting, that's okay. Are these guys probably going to move towards us quickly? And will these fighters get there before this guy heads into the cloud? It seems like they will. So let's see how much damage they're able to do. Now, they brought a lot of Avengers.
A strategic area.
And that's pretty cost effective. Avenger spam is a tried and true Imperial tactic. Alright, let's slow it back down. In fact, let's try to destroy this ship before its allies get here. And there we go. That is a lot of boarding on it immediately. No need to pop that. This guy's being eaten alive by the fighters. But the thing is, unlike older carrier fleets, we now can't launch new fighters because all these haven't come back. They're probably going to take, what, 1,000 HP overall off of that Grand Cruiser Avenger? It's a decent amount, like, considering how little firepower the rest of our Necrons are showing, and not being able to deal with this one ship. But at least we get some nice shots of these guys. Alright, everybody turn. Maybe we'll be able to fire in both directions at once. That would at least be nice. We can pop a Star Pulse Wave soon. And our cooldowns on our scythes have now gone, so that was 700 HP damage on that one Avenger. I mean, it's not amazing, but hey, whatever. Alright, let's go in, pop a Scarab Swarm in the fashion, and in fact, oh no, why can't I use, oh, the cooldown is not up yet. That's unfortunate. We can use Doom Scythe Transfer. Alright, this guy got a bunch of fires on board. Let's pop these things. Let's Doom Scythe Transfer to you. And, oh, I suppose, yeah, the Second does have Doom Scythe Transfer. It's a little weird. It seems like it's overpowered, but I'm not entirely sure. Alright, you launch more fighters. You're dead. We do have boarding available once more. You have suffered a little bit of damage, but not too bad. There's really no need to move or do anything. I mean, it is a skirmish AI. We're not outnumbered. I'm just doing this to show off the new ships. So as you can see, they're broadsides. The benefit of broadside ships is, I suppose, when you get in between enemy fleets and then you're firing in several directions at once. That's always nice.
Reaching engagement velocity.
Alright, so these Imperial ships should be dead momentarily. In fact, let's speed it up. There we go. We haven't really taken much in the way of hurt. I mean, it is a skirmish. What do you expect? Okay, now see, here's the weird thing. Oh, your engines got crippled at the end. We have a bunch of these fighters flying around. They're not really doing anything. And until they all decide to come back, we can't use the rest of our fighters. Oh, your deck got... Ah, that's irritating. I mean, it's pretty much impossible to lose, but it's still irritating. And your deck got destroyed, wow. So, 2 crits. I mean, the Necrons clearly still have that irritating weakness towards crits.
The enemy has
But
accumulated
Necron players should
25%
definitely be
of
wary
strategic
with
points.
all these cost decreases all around. Because all enemy factions, well, pretty much all enemy factions are going to be bringing more ships, although we did see some increases on points on the larger ships. I think it feels like the devs are trying to push a more light ship spamming meta. Maybe they want to see bigger fleets, I'm not entirely sure why. And that's a perfectly valid reason, I suppose, but since the bigger ships' costs got increased in some cases, and I do mean really bigger, like battleship costs. But overall, except for the Necrons, we should be seeing tons and tons more ships on the field. Well, maybe not tons, maybe in fact 1, because it's not actually that much when you put it together, but hey. It adds up with battle after battle. Ah, interesting. So the Sekhem... I keep wanting to say Sekhmet, but no. Sekhem only has 2 of each kind of boarding action available instead of 3. I'm just spending too much time talking. I'm not even firing with half my ships. All right, you guys turn, start firing. There we go. Let's destroy them all, and their last ship left. Pop Pyramidal Reconstruction, pop Scarab Swarm, go forward, and let's just finish them off. So yeah, that is the new Necron ships in action. Behold the beauty of the Frankenship. Ah, the Frankenship.
Have accumulated 50% of strategic points.
It will be interesting to see how the Frankenship actually fares in competitive play, although I'm expecting to see a lot more Sekhems while it is as it is. So that's that for my thoughts on this meta. Maybe I will do some more thoughts if they patch it out or something, maybe, well, if there's enough stuff to talk about. So, as always, I do appreciate any and all feedback with regards to the gameplay or the way I do things on this channel. As always, thanks for watching.